Shrika Sloan, and I serve on the American Veterans Heritage Center Board of Directors. It is a privilege to serve as your mistress of ceremonies during this wonderfully exciting and memorable event, and very hot event. Today we are here to witness the unveiling and gifting of a most impressive and magnificent statue of President Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States, who signed legislation establishing what is today's VA. Now please rise and remain standing for the invocation by Chaplain Stephen Wyke.
Heavenly Father, we deeply appreciate the encouragement you expressed to President Lincoln many years ago when he wrote in his proclamation of a day of fasting, quoting our president, and whereas when our own beloved country once, by the blessings of God, united, prosperous, and happy, is now afflicted with faction and civil war, it is peculiarly fit for us to recognize the hand of God in this terrible visitation, and in sorrowful remembrance of our own faults and crimes as a nation and as individuals, to humble ourselves before him and to pray for his mercy, to pray that we may be spared further punishment, though most justly deserved, that our arms may be blessed and made effectual for the reestablishment of law, order, and peace throughout the wide extent of our country, and that the inestimable bond of civil and religious liberty earned under his guidance and blessing by the labors and sufferings of our Father may be restored in all its original excellence. At today's unveiling, Father, may we unveil our own role in honoring you by expressing compassion, forgiveness, mercy, and kindness, and make these our focus for unity as expressed by President Lincoln. May we revere you, dear Father, as we bow in humble submission to your correction, confess and deplore sins and transgressions in the full conviction that fear for you is the beginning of wisdom, as we pray with all fervency and contrition for the pardon of past offenses and for blessings upon present and prospective actions. Help us, dear Father, to focus on a much-needed unity at this time as we honor the men who lived for such. We embrace the same words of encouragement you expressed to President Lincoln as we strive to serve you with heart, soul, and might, and we all say, Amen.
Thank you very much. Please remain standing as the Band of Flight plays our national anthem. Please turn toward the large American flag across the street. Thank you. If you would, please continue standing as the American Veterans Heritage Center Dayton National Cemetery Honor Squad will now raise each of the military flags as the Band of Flight plays the Armed Forces Medley. Thank you. Please be seated. I would now like to introduce the talented sculptor, Mike Major. Mike Major grew up on a farm in Miami County. As a student, he studied at the Dayton Art Institute's Saturday program for 6 years. He graduated with a Bachelor of Science from Ohio University, summa cum laude, and subsequently obtained a Master of Fine Arts degree from the Pratt Institute in New York. His first artist in residence was with the Ohio Arts Council. After 2 years in residence at Urbana University, Mike worked in the studio full-time. He has since completed 204 bronze sculptures, including small limited editions and large public documents. For his rich artistic talents, Mike has been recognized on both national and international levels. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to sculptor Mike Major.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, it's been a long day coming, but we're here, and it's an exciting day. I want to thank Bill DeFries, Regina Payne, and so many other people, Bob Neff, and Glenn also, I see sitting over here. So many people. This was a team effort to create this statue. But when I was starting to come up with an idea, a concept for the sculpture, I looked at over 100 photographs of Lincoln. And you know how photographs can differ. Different light, different moods, different times, different haircuts. And so what I wanted to do with the face of Lincoln was get to the point where I understood that moment when he had just completed signing the document that created the Soldiers and Sailors Asylum, which became the VA. So he is sitting in a chair that he carried supposedly from Springfield, Illinois, because it fit. Not every chair was comfortable. I found a photograph of a chair online, and then I looked for another chair that I could purchase, and it was a child's chair. It was small. Problem was it was a rocking chair, so I had to take the rockers off. And to create the small scale model, which is how we begin sculptures, I put together pieces of metal, laid on clay, and worked out the details, having Lincoln's document that he's just signed on his left leg and his right hand resting with a pin. But the expression was one of contemplation, maybe daydreaming, as if he could see this first headquarters for the administration. He wouldn't ever see it because he was about to be assassinated a few days later. So it was a poignant assignment to do this sculpture. From that small model created with a child's rocker converted into a regular chair, we did a digital scan, cut out a styrofoam larger version, this size, and then I was able to use plastiline, which is an oil-based clay, to finish the surface and work in the details and the wrinkles. Lincoln had aged. Lincoln had been stressed, of course, for many years, and this was a magic moment, but a very sober moment as he thought about the veterans who were injured for life and about the orphans and the widows and those who needed care, thousands and thousands. And he was also thinking about all the soldiers lost. So it was a powerful sculpture assignment, a very humbling one. And I thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mike. Again, such an incredible work of art that's sneaking out a little bit. Next, please welcome Regina Payne. Regina is the secretary and past president of the Lincoln Society of Dayton. She has the honor of introducing our next speaker.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you for being here today for this historical event. The Lincoln Society of Dayton is a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization founded in 2003 by a retired lawyer by the name of Thomas C. Cecil to honor Abraham Lincoln's life and legacy. Tom envisioned putting a statue of Lincoln in downtown Dayton at the old courthouse, where Lincoln gave his speech in 1859 against the expansion of slavery. Members of Tom's family are here today, 7 of his children, some of the spouses and additional family members. If you could please stand just for a moment to recognize Cecil's family. Thank you so much. Some of them traveled in quite a ways to be here today. In 2016, we unveiled the statue of Lincoln. And when you drive down Main Street in downtown Dayton, you will see the 11-foot statue of Lincoln standing in Courthouse Square. Today, the American Veterans Heritage Center and the Lincoln Society of Dayton will unveil a second Lincoln statue to honor a promise, the action taken at hand by our 16th President of the United States of America. On the heels of losing a second son while serving as president, faced with the great loss of life during the Civil War, and the very idea that his own son, Robert Lincoln, wanted to serve in uniform, Lincoln felt his own deep pain and understood suffering. This gave Lincoln the foresight to know that we must not forget our veterans, but rather protect, provide for the men and women who give their lives for our freedom. This Lincoln statue started with a promise 7 years ago, a promise made by the Lincoln Society to Judge Walter Rice. Under the great leadership of Bill DeFreeze, a man who served in uniform, who gave his heart and soul to his country and to this Lincoln Project, so that our children, our grandchildren, and their children will know the promise that Lincoln made to veterans and the responsibility that we now have. On behalf of the Lincoln Statue Committee, thank you, Bill, for your outstanding dedication and leadership in this project. A big thank you to everyone who gave of their time, talent, financial support, and we are so very grateful. Just even for this beautiful park, everybody just came together and donated in some way. I once heard that we die twice. When our bodies give up and our spirit flies, and when our stories stop being told. The profound statue created by Mike Major will never let us forget Lincoln's promise. This statue on sacred ground will never let us forget our veterans and the healing power of their stories. Today, we salute all veterans and their families. We are honored to have one of the greatest Lincoln scholars with us today, Harold Holzer. This is Harold's 4th visit to Dayton, but his 3rd visit addressing Daytonians about Lincoln. His bio is so accomplished that I'm going to attempt to read the brief version. Harold Holzer is director of the Roosevelt Home Public Policy Institute at Hunter College, a post he assumed in 2015 after 23 years as Senior Vice President for External Affairs at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Holzer served for 6 years as chairman of the Abraham Lincoln Bicentennial Foundation, and for the previous 10 years as co-chair of the U.S. Lincoln Bicentennial Commission appointed by President Bill Clinton. He is also the co-founder and chairman of the Lincoln Forum. In 2008, he was awarded the National Humanities Medal by President George W. Bush. Holzer is the author, co-author, or editor of 56 books on Lincoln, the Civil War, and the American media. His book, Lincoln and the Power of the Press, won the 2016 Gilder Lehman Lincoln Prize and the Mark Litton History Prize from the Columbia University School of Journalism, and the Goldsmith Prize from Harvard Kennedy School, among other honors. His book, Monument Man, The Life and Art of Daniel French, won a New England Society Award and the St. Gaudens Medal for his work. Holzer's latest book, brought forth on this continent, Abraham Lincoln and the American Immigration, was published in February of this year. Holzer lectures throughout the country and has appeared in Lincoln-related on-stage performances in venues that include the White House, Ford's Theater, the Library of Congress, and the George H.W. Bush and the Bill Clinton presidential libraries. He was the lead historian for the Steven Spielberg film, Lincoln. Holzer and his wife, Edith, live in New York City. They have 2 daughters and 2 grandsons. Please join me in giving Harold Holzer a very warm welcome.
Thank you, Regina. You're a very tough act to follow. I loved the first part of your speech. The second was too long, the bio. But so veterans and active service members and your families and distinguished guests, it is a real honor to be back in Dayton for this great event. As Regina said, 15 years ago, I had the privilege of being here to mark the 150th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's 1859 visit to Dayton. And I got to return in 2016 to help unveil Mark's statue that now marks the spot at the courthouse where Lincoln delivered a historic address here, a speech that helped make him president. But as I argued before and reiterate today, we should not look at his visit, even though it came only once, as a one-off, because in one way it was a continuation of his intense debates with Stephen Douglas on the issue of slavery extension. And in another way, it was a lead-up to the Cooper Union address that Lincoln would soon give in my hometown, New York, the speech that's always credited with making him president. In fact, Dayton and Cooper Union made Lincoln president. If you read the texts, there are some astonishing similarities. He was developing the arguments in Dayton that he went on to make in New York. I don't know how many people realize it. I know one young man who probably realizes it, Samuel Black. But Lincoln arrived here in Dayton exactly 165 years ago today, or as we say in Lincoln speak, 85 years ago. He was right here in Dayton. And the Republican papers announced the slayer of the little giant is in Dayton. And went on to say, Mr. Lincoln showed conclusively that instead of a union made up of free and slave states, the framers regarded the removal of slavery as only a question of time, and that at some day, not far distant, the people would get rid of it. Here in Dayton, Lincoln reiterated his warning that the country could not exist permanently half slave and half free. Here he gave us a great definition of the role that government should play, then and always, to provide for the general welfare. And as he put it, the perpetuity of slavery impedes the general welfare. Here he reiterated his idea of the American dream. As he put it, 25 years ago, I was a hired laborer. But the hired laborer of yesterday labors on his own account today and will then hire others to labor for him tomorrow. Free labor, he said, holds the promise of hope. Well, fortuitously, Lincoln swept into office that November, and the following year, Ohio voted 55 to 45 for Lincoln to easily capture the state's electoral votes. No wonder he included Ohio in a big victory tour of sorts, the inaugural journey that began in February 1861, getting a huge ovation wherever he traveled in Ohio. And as I was just mentioning to the governor's representative, Columbus is the city where Lincoln was actually elected president of the United States, because the day after his birthday, the electoral votes were counted. Guess what? Most Americans thought there would be an insurrection that day before the votes were counted, but they were counted peacefully, and Lincoln got a telegram outside your own state's Capitol building telling him that he had formally been elected. Lincoln never forgot his debt to this state or to the soldiers of this state and other loyal states who gave their lives that the nation might live throughout the Civil War. Taking his oath of office for the second time, he pledged not only to bind up the nation's wounds, but to care for him who shall have borne the battle, and for his widow and his orphan. Just one day before that speech, as you've heard from Mike, Lincoln signed the legislation creating the first national system for caring for wounded soldiers, the forerunner of the VA. So in the space of 24 hours, words and action, the test of leadership. That's why, to borrow another phrase of Lincoln's, it's altogether fitting and proper to again remember Abraham Lincoln here in Dayton on the site of this beautiful facility, with another fine statue by Mike Major for the city where Lincoln, you might say, truly became a national figure. What a privilege to remember these historic moments that Lincoln forged in Dayton, and of course to acknowledge all the pain and progress that followed, beginning with the Civil War. I don't have to remind you that we are living in another challenging age, and sometimes getting things wrong. Sometimes forgetting our veterans, especially our most honored veterans, who are always genuine heroes, deserving respect, appreciation, admiration, and care. And remember, Lincoln not only signed the VA Act, as we might call it, in the final days of his presidency. In the early days of his presidency, he signed the bill creating the Congressional Medal of Honor, still our highest recognition of military valor. And for 3 summers, he lived with wounded soldiers and veterans and active troops at the Soldiers' Home in Washington, joining them for meals, joining them for coffee breaks, joining them for funerals. I hope everyone who pauses before Mike Major's new Lincoln will remember and celebrate Lincoln's commitment, as well as our own, to preserve and protect veterans' health, to honor their courage, and to acknowledge and pay tribute to their sacrifice. Let me conclude by reminding everyone again of Lincoln's most famous pre-presidential warning. He said it in Illinois in 1858. He repeated it in Ohio in 1859. A house divided against itself cannot stand. In the end, Lincoln saved the American house. And you might say he built an extension as well, not only with a new birth of freedom for African Americans, but with a new and permanent obligation to those, white and black, who served to save that union. Lincoln once said, and I think we can all agree, we cannot escape history. On days like this, we not only remember it, we embrace it and recommit to using our collective yesterdays to illuminate, hopefully, our shared tomorrows. History may not always repeat itself, someone once said, but it always echoes. When we behold this statue, as we will, we can feel those echoes. We can learn from them. We can be inspired by them, as Lincoln put it, for all time to come. And we here, in his name, can highly resolve our gratitude for the sacrifice that brought us here, and thank Lincoln and all who served in his name and the country's name, and ever since, to create a more perfect union. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Holzer. Bill DeFries from American Veteran Heritage Center and Regina Payne from the Lincoln Society of Dayton, please join me at the podium. Now we are honored to have a proclamation from the governor's office. Please welcome Tammy Puff to the podium to read and present this announcement.
Hello, folks. As a person who uses the VA, I am very appreciative. As the Director of Military and Veteran Relations for Governor DeWine, I am very honored to be here today. What I have for you, I'm not going to look at you while I read this because I have to face this way so I can set it down. Sorry. In the name and by the authority of the state of Ohio, Mike DeWine and John Husted, Governor and Lieutenant Governor of Ohio, do hereby officially recognize the unveiling of the statue honoring Abraham Lincoln. On behalf of the state of Ohio, we welcome all those gathered to recognize the unveiling of the new Abraham Lincoln statue at the Dayton VA. This 1,700-pound statue, don't let that fall on you, donated by the American Veterans Heritage Center and the Lincoln Society of Dayton, will be a proud focal point at the VA. We commend the Dayton VA for recognizing Abraham Lincoln and all that he has done for Ohio and the United States. We extend our best wishes for a memorable event on the 16th day of September 2024, signed by Mike DeWine, Governor, and John Husted, Lieutenant Governor of the state of Ohio. Thank you so much for all that you've done. We appreciate it greatly.
Thank you, Tammy.
Thank you, Ms. Puff. We are also honored by the Montgomery County Board of County Commissioners with another proclamation. Welcome Deborah Lieberman to the podium to read and present the announcement.
Good afternoon. Bill, this looks a little bit bigger than it did at your place, just a bit. You know, I think most of you maybe know it sat in your place for how long?
June 16th, 2020 it got there.
It got there 2020. So some of us were able to see it there, and so we had a little sneak peek, and it is beautiful. I'm County Commissioner Debbie Lieberman, and I am so happy to be able to represent the commissioners. Commissioner Dodge is here. Over there. Oh, you're right there. Hi, Judy. I was on the other end. We're just so happy to be here to be able to do this. We're also happy that the other Mike Major Lincoln statue is on our courthouse square. And have you all been there to see it before? Everybody? Yeah? Okay. It's beautiful. And so we're thrilled that now there's another one that we can come visit. So whereas Montgomery County, Ohio joins the Dayton VA Medical Center for the unveiling of Mike Major's Lincoln statue commemorating Lincoln's authorization of the National Soldiers and Sailors Asylum, an organization that would later come to be known as the Veterans Health Administration. And whereas, operating under Lincoln's promise to care for him who shall have borne the battle, and for his widow and his orphan, the Dayton VA Medical Center was one of the first 3 soldiers' homes in the country and continues to care for the region's veterans. And whereas the statue is located at the center of a walking park on the Dayton VA campus for reflection. This statue joins the National VA History Center and Dayton National Cemetery as a historical tourist attraction. And we're thrilled about that. And whereas efforts to bring this bronze statue began in 2018 with the partnership of the Lincoln Society of Dayton and the American Veterans Heritage Center. Understanding the importance of this task, artist Mike Major studied hundreds of photos of the late president and read about his upbringing, his career, and life to create this incredible 1,700-pound statue. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of County Commissioners of Montgomery County, Ohio, on this 16th day of September 2024, commemorates the unveiling of the Lincoln statue, celebrating Lincoln's enduring promise to care for our veterans. And that is signed by Judy Dodge, Carolyn Rice, and myself, Debbie Lieberman. Thank you all for what you did to bring this here, and you each get a proclamation. How about that? Thank you, Bill. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. I'm not sure I heard the third one there.
Thank you, Ms. Lieberman. Now we are honored to have a proclamation from Senator J.D. Vance on behalf of the United States Senate. Please welcome Stephen Cook to the podium to present this announcement. Bill and Regina, I need you to stay on the party.
It is a complete honor and privilege to be here today with you to help celebrate the unveiling of this incredible monument to the 16th President, Abraham Lincoln. Senator Vance sends his sincere apologies for not being able to be here, but did want me to read this proclamation on his behalf. So, Senator J.D. Vance, on behalf of the United States Senate, I am honored to recognize the unveiling of the statue of President Abraham Lincoln at the Dayton VA Medical Center. This extraordinary monument honoring President Abraham Lincoln's enduring commitment to care for veterans stands as a powerful symbol of his promise to care for him who shall have borne the battle and for his widow and his orphan. The placement of the statue on the historic grounds of the Dayton VA Medical Center, one of the original soldiers' homes authorized by President Lincoln himself, is a fitting and meaningful tribute to his legacy, and I extend my gratitude to all those involved with this endeavor for your hard work. Signed, United States Senator J.D. Vance.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. We are now honored to have a proclamation from Congressman Mike Turner's office. Please welcome Eugene Saunders to the podium to read and present this announcement. Here you go. Eugene.
Thank you. Well, I'm honored to be here today on behalf of Congressman Turner, who was unable to join us today. And I have a letter from him that I'd like to share. Dear friends, I'm honored to celebrate this special day with you as we unveil the Lincoln statue here at the Dayton VA Medical Center. The statue of President Lincoln artfully captures the vision and foresight of one of the greatest leaders our nation has ever known, as he dedicated us to the work of binding our nation back together after a devastating civil war, and to care for him who shall have borne the battle and for his widow and his orphan. I can think of no other place more fitting than the Dayton VA Medical Center campus, one of the first soldiers' homes that President Lincoln established, to serve as home to this beautiful monument. It is a fitting reminder of all the important work, of who we are charged with in caring for our nation's veterans. I congratulate all of those who helped bring the dream of this beautiful monument to fruition. Sincerely, Michael R. Turner, Member of Congress.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Saunders. Our next presenter is well known on this campus. She became the Medical Center Director in January of this year. Previously, she had been the Associate Director from October 2020 until July 2023, when she served as the Interim Medical Center Director until she officially accepted her current role. Please help me welcome Dr. Jennifer D. Francesco to make a special introduction.
Thank you so much, Trika, for that introduction. And before I get started, I just wanted to take a moment to recognize all of the veterans out in the crowd today. So if you are a veteran and are able to, please stand. If not, please raise your hand so that we can recognize you in your service. Thank you so much. Good afternoon. Thank you everyone for being here with us today. It is an honor to be here to see the unveiling in dedication of the President Abraham Lincoln statue on this historic and beautiful grounds here at the Dayton VA. This day has been several years in the making. Just ask Bill. I got to see Bill out here on September 11th when Mr. Lincoln found his spot on this pedestal, and I will tell you, Bill was nearly dancing. So I'm happy to be celebrating with you today. I first want to recognize and appreciate the American Veterans Heritage Center team, or AVHC, as well as the Lincoln Society of Dayton members for their tireless efforts to see this project to come to fruition. I want to extend a special thanks to Bill DeFries, the AVHC president, and Lincoln Statue Committee chair. I also want to take a moment to recognize and extend thanks and gratitude to the AVHC Board of Executives. Kim Frisco, I saw her running around here. The Honorable Judge Walter Rice, the Honorable Judge Dennis Atkins, Michael Seiler, I know he's over there, and Daryl Johnson. To the AVHC Board of Directors, thank you for all the work that you've done with this project. I also want to thank honorary directors Margaret Krugemeyer, she was over there, and Glenn Costi. This day has been made possible because of all of you. One of the things that I often say that makes the Miami Valley so special is that this community is so invested in the health, healing, and well-being of our veterans that you come and wrap around our veterans like a big hug. And the hundreds of you here today are just such a great representation of that. So thank you so much for being here as well. The Dayton VA is also a place where the past and future meet the present. And I can only imagine the pride that President Lincoln would have if he were able to watch over today's proceedings and see the legacy that he left for our nation's heroes, not only in this country, but here in Dayton, Ohio. It is my sincere hope that President Lincoln will be here watching over this campus as we celebrate and honor our heritage of healing today, tomorrow, and for the next 157 years. May we always anchor ourselves in President Lincoln's enduring vision to care for those who have borne the battle. Now, it is my distinct honor to introduce the Department of Veterans Affairs Chief of Staff, Ms. Meg Cabot. Prior to her current role, Ms. Cabot served as the Principal Senior Advisor to the VA Secretary. Ms. Cabot is a licensed clinical social worker with more than 25 years of experience supporting our veterans, their families, and their service members. She also comes from a family with a tradition of service. She is the proud daughter and granddaughter of veterans. Please join me in welcoming VA's Chief of Staff, Ms. Meg Cabot.
Thank you. On behalf of Secretary McDonough, I want to extend my deep thanks to the Dayton VA staff and the volunteers so devoted to caring for veterans here in Ohio and in Indiana. I'm honored to call you colleagues. There are so many to thank for the enormous amount of work that we're celebrating today. Mike, I know you put your heart and soul into this piece, and for many reasons, you've brought the spirit of Lincoln to life. Harold, thank you for giving us the critical understanding of the historical context for this ceremony. Bill, thank you for your courageous service in the Marines, your enduring commitment to your fellow veterans, your community, and to VA. And to all the members, friends, and supporters of the American Veterans Heritage Center, Regina, and the Lincoln Society of Dayton, and the Lincoln Statue team. What you've accomplished here is an amazing example for every community around the country. And most importantly, welcome to all the veterans here today and to their families. You're the heart of this nation. You've been there in the times our country needed you the most. When Louis Gunkel, the quote, father of the Dayton VA, and first Central Branch resident manager dedicated these grounds, he encouraged the community to see the new facility as a soldier's home. 3 years later, in dedicating the Central Branch Hospital, he reinforced this. Our constant aim, he said, has been to care for the disabled soldier and provide a pleasant, comfortable, and happy home. If we have succeeded in that, he said, our dearest wishes have been realized, and our highest ambition has been gratified. So from past to present, Dayton VA has always been about the sacred obligation President Lincoln gave the nation as the Civil War drew to a close, to care for our veterans and their families. Well, a lot has changed since the Soldiers' Home welcomed those first veterans, and I've imagined what Manager Gunkel and President Lincoln would think about their Soldiers' Home today. Today, VA Dayton serves over 60,000 American heroes. That means primary care, emergency care, psychiatric care, cardiology, pulmonology, neurology, ology. And today, VA Dayton is a state-of-the-art teaching and research facility, a hub for cutting-edge healthcare and innovation. 3D printed sockets for prosthetics, artificial intelligence to improve health outcomes, research on things like traumatic brain injury, polytrauma, pain management, and more. And most importantly, veterans trust the VA Dayton for their care. Dayton's veteran trust scores are the highest they've ever been, exceeding our VA-wide trust score. So the rest of the country can learn something from all of you. So let me talk about two veterans who I think are here today. Vietnam veteran Wayne Schatzel. All right. He's been getting his care here at Dayton for nearly 2 decades. The people at Dayton VA, Wayne says, go out of their way to help me, and they're always there for me. They listen, and there's a personal connection. At Dayton, Wayne says he's treated with dignity, kindness, and compassion. Wayne's fellow veteran, Jim Mormon, said, hello, sir, said, I have nothing but good things to say about Dayton VA. I've always been treated with respect and dignity. Several years ago, Jim was diagnosed with ALS. And Deb, Jim's wife of 48 years and now his caregiver, says that when Jim was diagnosed, Dayton put his care into action quickly. The Dayton staff members have always been proactive, doing everything possible to help us stay ahead of the disease and to prepare us, even before we actually need something. Thank you for giving the VA the privilege of caring for you. You are what today is all about. You know, it's because of the kind of care Dayton provides to veterans like Wayne and Jim that study after study finds VA is the best and the most affordable care for veterans, outperforming non-VA hospitals when it comes to patient satisfaction and quality of care. It's because of the kind of care VA Dayton offers that more and more veterans are choosing VA care, and that VA is delivering more benefits and more care to more veterans than ever before. 6 million veterans receive disability compensation and other benefits like the GI Bill, life insurance, home loans, and so much more. More than 9 million veterans are enrolled in VA healthcare across the country. And in just the 2 years since President Biden signed the new toxic exposure legislation into law, the PACT Act, hundreds of thousands of veterans have enrolled in VA healthcare. And we want every veteran to feel welcome at their VA. That's why last year we brought our VA mission statement into the moment. We embraced the fullest meaning of President Lincoln's charge to care for all those who have served and defended our nation. Our mission statement today says, to fulfill President Lincoln's promise to care for those who have served in our nation's military and for their families, caregivers, and survivors. All of which is to say, a lot has changed. But some things really haven't changed at all. Communities like this still rally around veterans and their families and embrace them, just like a big hug. And with wonderful communities like yours, VA will continue to care for veterans for the next 157 years and well beyond. I think President Lincoln would be pleased. And Manager Gunkel would see that we have realized his dearest wishes and have gratified his highest ambition. God bless our troops, veterans, their families, caregivers, and survivors. And may we always give them our very best. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. DeFrancisco and Ms. Cabot. Next, I would like to welcome the president of the American Veterans Heritage Center and the chairman of the Lincoln Statue Committee. His admiration for President Lincoln is clear every time he speaks, every time. He speaks about the 16th president and what he did for our veterans and country. His passion has been ever present during the entire project. It brings me great joy to welcome Bill DeFries.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us here today. I really want to take this speech and put it off to the side and just talk to you, but my wife would say, you need to tell him the speech. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, and to everyone watching at home across the country, viewing on our live stream, including Judge Rice and Judge Atkins, who's in Europe right now. Today we gather not just to speak, we gather to reflect on a promise and a mission that transcends politic, race, and creed. The duty to care and heal those that have served our great nation, those who have borne the battle and many who lost their lives, and the duty to care for their families left to mourn and heal. Imagine a country where every citizen who wears the uniform and goes to battle and returns to a life of disrespect, no support, no care, no healing, no opportunities, left to beg on the streets and die alone. That's what Abraham Lincoln discovered happened to many European country war veterans, and he vowed to never let that happen. He had a vision. He had a deep, deep personal obligation, and he made the promise to them that we still would carry on to this day. Today we gather to commemorate this obligation, this vision, this promise, a significant moment in our nation's history. On March 3rd, 1865, 44 days before his assassination, President Abraham Lincoln signed a bill, the last piece of legislation he would ever sign, that would forever change the lives of countless individuals and veterans to come. That bill, which established the National Home for the Disabled Volunteer Soldiers, was a testament to Lincoln's unwavering commitment to those who had borne the battle during the Civil War. At its peak, nearly 7,000 disabled veteran soldiers lived and were cared for here. Behind you is a long-term care facility. Originally, that was the parade ground where most of them would march in formation while they listened to music at the original band shell that you see behind you. The policies and infrastructures developed by the Soldiers' Home laid the groundwork for the modern Veterans Administration benefits and healthcare system that we know today. It's a testament to the American people's unwavering commitment to care for and heal millions of Americans, ensuring that those who have sacrificed so much for our country receive the care that they deserve. This historic Lincoln statue is the result of two volunteer community organizations coming together, the Lincoln Society of Dayton and the American Veterans Heritage Center, working together to raise the support necessary to build this pavilion and commission the statue. It's much like when Louis Gunkel from Germantown, Ohio, the founder of Coolidge Wall Law Firm, members of which are here today, who raised the initial $40,000 in 1865 to purchase the 600 acres to build the Dayton Soldiers' Home. The citizens of Dayton, Ohio, preserving the history of caring for our veterans is not just about honoring the past, it's about inspiring all future generations to continue this noble mission. American support of our veterans is a vital part of our national heritage. It reminds us of the sacrifices made by those who have served and the enduring commitment of those who care for them and heal them. The Veterans Administration plays a crucial role in this journey, providing health care and benefits and maintaining national cemeteries. The VA and its employees have been at the forefront of ensuring our veterans receive the healing care and the support that they need. The dedication, professionalism, and compassion of the VA caregivers are a testament to the values that President Lincoln held dear: compassion, service, and justice. I'd like to give a round of applause to the VA caregivers that are here today. I'd also like to highlight the mission of our organization, the American Veterans Heritage Center, AVHC as we like to say, was born in the late 1990s after Dayton Daily News journalist Dale Huffman wrote a story titled, "Does the Little Chapel Have a Prayer?" Everybody look off to that area over there and you'll see the chapel that I'm referring to. The Protestant chapel, dedicated in 1870, was the first chapel building in the VA's history, and that it was to be demolished. The community formed the AVHC and worked with the VA to save and restore the chapel. Our Grotto Garden volunteers restored the original gardens and lakes that are down below us, that were built by the resident soldiers to their original beauty. I would ask you to go after the ceremony to just look and see what the beautiful Grotto Gardens are that are down there and that were built by the Civil War veterans. Also, part of the AVHC is our Dayton National Cemetery Honor Squad, over to my left. They provide memorial services to more than 100 veteran burials per month. I would like for you to give them a round of applause. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. For more than 23 years, the AVHC, which boasts more than 100 volunteers, has taken a lead role in preserving this campus, its history, and the revitalization, working alongside the Medical Center and the Dayton National Cemetery. As a result of our efforts, this campus was selected by the VA and the U.S. Congress to be the home of the National VA History Center and Archive. We look forward to partnering with the National VA History Office, where is Chief Historian Michael Visconage. Michael, thank you for being here. And also with the National VA History Center Foundation President, Glenn Costi, and the Secretary, General Dick Reynolds. In our joint mission of preserving the VA history here in Dayton, Ohio. Quick story. Construction started in February. In July, I came out to take some pictures and I lost my wedding ring on the campus. My wife, when I told her, didn't kill me. Thank you, honey. I said we would find it, but over the period of 2 weeks and us coming out and looking for it, we couldn't find it, so we enlisted the Dayton Diggers Club, which have metal detectors, and they came out. Not only did they find my ring, but they also found Civil War era artifacts on the site that you're sitting on. I would implore you to go over to the VA History Office. Tom is back there. He's got a poster that historically accurately depicts exactly what happened and the pictures of our Dayton Diggers who are here today. It really set in stone the history and this hallowed ground that we are now sitting on. So I would implore you to go over there and look at that story. It was impossible to do this without the support of this community, and behind me are several plaques and hundreds of the supporters of this wonderful memorial. I think most of the contractors are over here, but I would ask the contractors that worked on this job, that provided their talents, their treasures, their time, for the most part, 100% pro bono, to raise your hand, and everybody else, please recognize them. Please raise your hand back here. Really high, guys. Okay. So I'm going to ask, this is impromptu, but it's important for you to see the folks that actually worked together on this Lincoln Statue Committee. Glenn Costi, would you please come up here? Kim Frisco, Brian Indereden, Dan Kugel, Regina Payne, would you please come to the front? I think it's important. Kim, Brian Indereden. And I know you're making your way up here, Bob. Do I have to call your name? Mr. Neff. Robert Neff, ladies and gentlemen. He's been playing hard to get for almost 90 years. So we like to refer to these guys as the OG, the old gangsters, the old crew that started all this. Roughly December 2016, when he came to the AVHC, Robert Neff, and solicited us to do this project. We've met, countless times, thousands of hours. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you. The guy that recruited me into this, Glenn Costi, the first thing he said is, I've got a great honor for you to lead the Lincoln Statue Committee. And I didn't know any better. I said, okay. Right? Would you say a few words?
It's really an amazing accomplishment for this community to have come together and help celebrate a wonderful president. You can imagine the procedures that we had to follow and the negotiations that we had with the VA, but in the end, staff here, the leadership of the VA and the secretary, it all came together, and it really came down to really just a lot of communication, understanding what AVHC was trying to accomplish, what we were going to do with this site once the statue was erected. We really are looking forward to inviting the school children from the local schools to come here and hear lectures about Abraham Lincoln that AVHC will be doing in the future. So this is going to be a wonderful resource for the community, and it's just an honor to be part of it.
I've done hundreds of tours out here, imploring, soliciting, begging folks to support this project. It's really been a labor of love. In 1880, I barely graduated high school. My mother wrote a couple of my papers for me to graduate, and she wrote me a letter. And in it, she told me to study some of President Abraham Lincoln's works. I still have that letter to this day. About 6 months later, she passed away at the age of 52. But she wrote me that letter, and she said, Abe didn't have a formal education either. So she helped me graduate, and the first thing I did was enlisted into the United States Marine Corps. So when people ask me where did I go to college, I say the Corps, because it set the foundation for the rest of my life. Fast forward to 1994, when I was living where I grew up, born and raised in Chicago. They had a dedication of the Lincoln National Cemetery south of Joliet, and we attended in April of '94 with my then wife and my two daughters, who were 4 and 5 years old. And it was a torrential downpour, and it was snowing, and there was mud and sogginess all over the place. And I apologize for the folks that are on my left, because you're in the sun, but it would be much better for you to be here than there. And the next day was Sunday, and here we were. They took a picture of the four of us, and we're on the front page of the Chicago Tribune at the Lincoln National Cemetery, Unveiling. And then I find myself being recruited to do this project, really not knowing what it was. But it's really steeped me more about why I got transferred to Dayton, Ohio in 2001 and fell in love with this community. We may be small, but what we have accomplished here is just truly remarkable. Forthcoming is the National VA History Center Museum and Archive. It's already happening. The original headquarters building right there is being completely remodeled. This is the Putnam Library, and it's getting ready to go under construction. That will be the National VA History Center Visitor Center. So you'll park over there, you'll come through this park. We expect to have thousands of guests a month as they visit the National VA Aviation, the National Heritage Aviation Trail, and they visit the Air Force Museum. They'll be stopping here on this campus. You'll go through the queue line, you'll see some static displays that Mike Visconage and his VA History Office going to do beautifully, right, Mike? And then the National VA History Center Foundation will be building about a $75 million museum back there on that land. This is where it all starts, to be able to experience that. We got 3 years, General Reynolds, 3 years. Are you ready? Okay. In conclusion, let us forever honor the memory of President Abraham Lincoln and his visionary leadership. This statue stands as a gift from a grateful nation to the Veterans Administration, symbolizing our collective commitment of preserving this history and educating and inspiring our community about the importance of caring for and remembering those who have served our great nation. Thank you.
Honor Squad, attention! Port arms! Ready! Aim! Fire! Aim! Fire! Aim! Fire! Port arms!
Thank you, Mr. DeFries, and thank you to our American Veteran Heritage Center Dayton National Cemetery Honor Squad. I welcome all of you to stand and face the flag and place your hand over your hearts. If you are active duty or a veteran, you may salute the flag as Al Howie plays taps. Wonderful. Let us now prepare for the unveiling of this special statue in honor of President Lincoln as the Band of Flight plays 2 specially chosen selections for this special occasion. you all enjoyed being a part of this special day. Thank you for choosing to witness this memorial ceremony, whether in person or virtually. It has been an honor to serve as your Mistress of Ceremonies. We welcome everyone to come up and take pictures with the statue and our historical reenactors, especially President Lincoln and his wife, Mary Todd Lincoln. There are also master gardeners located at the beautiful Grotto Gardens if you would like to participate in a guided tour. The American Veteran Heritage Center Dayton National Cemetery Honor Squad is happy to pose for pictures at the cemetery with their cannon and rifles. This concludes our ceremony. Thank you for coming and enjoy the rest of your day.
The Dayton VA Medical Center would not even be here had it not been for Abraham Lincoln.
Lincoln was, I think, by anybody's list, one of the 2 or 3 greatest of our presidents. But what people don't always know is that the legislation signed by Lincoln establishing the soldier's home concept was the last piece of domestic legislation he signed prior to his assassination. And Dayton was one of the 3 branches established in that legislation. We were the central branch.
I've met veterans that more or less this is their second home, if not almost their first home, where they don't really seem to have more family. This is their connection for the rest of their lives.
The American Veterans Heritage Center was a grassroots effort by Daytonians. It was originally founded in the 1990s to help save the Protestant chapel.
This project is recognizing something that happened in 1865 when Abraham Lincoln signed that bill to create the Soldiers' Home.
What better place to locate a statue where Lincoln is pondering the legislation before putting his signature upon it than the place where it all began?
I was excited about that. I thought, wow, to be able to do Lincoln with a beard, because we did him without a beard for the Montgomery County Courthouse because he didn't have the beard at that time. I thought it would be great to have a mature Lincoln who was showing the stress of having been through the Civil War and was following through with a promise to take care of the soldiers at the end of the war. That's how the idea began, just the discussion, and then sketches followed. And a model, probably a quarter of the size. And that model then became the basis for the large full-size sculpture.
Dayton, Ohio, we may be small, but I think that we set the example of what community really is.
I think it's safe to say that Dayton was where the concept of helping our veterans after the battles were fought and won was established.
Bronzes last a long time. We have bronzes that are 4,000 years old. That it's really the most permanent metal, or among the most permanent metals. And it's really a humbling thought that trying to put those ideas into shape now, hopefully a long time from now, will still convey that feeling.
We cannot possibly do enough for our veterans, and anything that would bring the community to the VA campus to meet the veterans, to mingle with them, to talk to them, to thank them is a project worth its weight in gold.
We hope it'll be a place of education where folks can come and receive lectures about Lincoln and his relationship to the campus.
This is going to be a national destination point. We know it.